Hello and thank you. My name is David Graham, and I'm a regression therapist and spirit release practitioner, ET experiencer, and I live in England. And uh, I'm here with Kevin Briggs, and I'm here with Karin Mcleod, and we're going to address a particular question today. And the question that I'm going to ask is the vibration of Mother Earth rising? And if so, is the vibration of humanity also rising? And so um, I'm seeing Karen in my screen at the moment. Karen, would you like to be the first one to answer that question?
Sure, that's an interesting question. I think my opinion about this, especially in the past 5 years, is that I've come to an understanding that as carbon-based life beings that are all attached to this planet, as well as the light and energy of our star, which is also tied into the consciousness of our planet and hence ourselves, I think every consciousness level is evolving. And that can be all the way back to, say, first level consciousness, which is typically like rocks and minerals, and second level, which would be like plants, um, grass, shrubs, trees are actually, a little more evolved, believe it or not. And most people who love trees know this. There's a different energy about trees. And then animals, and then humans. And my experience over the past, probably, like I said, 4 or 5 years, is that each level is starting to evolve to try to be more like the next level. So if you were to do some research like I have about, say, the insect kingdom, which is a certain level of consciousness below animals, but slightly above plants, you would read all sorts of interesting accounts about the animal kingdom doing new and evolved behaviors. For example, there was a little study about a group of bees, which are amazing in and of themselves, but that had learned to communicate how to unscrew the top of a Fanta soda bottle. And they were communicating, three bees figured out how to do this. And, you know, there was a video of this, and I just found it fascinating that they would be evolved enough. And if I don't know a lot about bees, but I know that they're quite amazing in how they are able to navigate and communicate. But that's next level, that they could figure out how to unscrew the top of this Fanta red
Mm.
soda bottle and get into it. And I thought that was amazing. And there's a lot of stories about animals that are beginning to do new and evolved things. And if you have a pet dog or a cat or a bird, specifically birds, they're just doing more evolved behavior. So looking at our earth and the attachments we have as different species to this planet, you can begin to see an evolution. And part of that, I believe, is due to the changing nature of the light coming in from our sun, but also from other energies. And what are we evolving to? If we're looking to evolve to next level, what would that be? And this is part of why I think this discussion is important and interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Karen, I wrote an expression down as you were talking there, where you're describing rocks and trees and bees and so on. The expansion of universal consciousness. And it occurs to me what you're saying is this happens at all kind of levels, uh, from the planet itself, humanity also. Am I
Mm-hmm.
understanding you right there?
Yeah, that's right. Because I don't think a species is going to evolve independently that is tied to a planet, especially when the light comes from a certain star. So we are tied to our star. Look at how things grow, look at the seasons, look at where, everything about the earth is very in line with our star. And the sun is changed a little bit as well. I mean, we're roughly the same generation, all of us. And do you remember when I ask people in our generation, what do you remember about the sun? A lot of people say they remember it being more yellow and golden, where now it looks more white. And these are interesting things to notice, that the light might be changing, and therefore are we then responding to the light of our sun, which, there's plasma technology. The sun
Mm.
in and of itself is what controls our entire, evolution and seasons and life. So I think that all of those things are tied together systematically, and therefore we will evolve all together from one potential level to the next. So if we believe we're in a 3D reality as Earth, carbon-based beings,
Mm.
if we evolve to fourth density, what does that look like? And what would that be? Those are things that I find interesting in our
Yeah.
evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when you're talking about the sun, it occurs to me, well, the question was about the earth and humanity. It extends beyond earth and the humanity to the cosmos. As if earth and humanity is changing, it's part of a change that's occurring much more widely, is what I is the thought that comes to me when you describe all this.
Well, there's one more thing to add. A lot of people don't realize that the entire solar system is rotating up, spiraling slowly in an upward movement. People might think that everything is fixed in space, but that's not true. Our physicists know now that the entire spiral galaxy of our Milky Way galaxy is slowly in a rotation upwards. Okay, so if that's true, what kind of energies are we moving into?
Mm.
And
Yeah,
these are all, so when you talk about a consciousness evolution or movement up or down, typically moving up means you are evolving into something different, and more evolved means that you are moving along a consciousness path of evolution that is higher level. So those are things that I think about and might be interesting for other people to think about.
sure. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Kevin, I was going to ask you the same question. It sounds like there's extra questions to ask as well.
Yeah, I'm
Kevin,
sure. It was fascinating that, Karin. Your opening statement was the same as my opening statement in a competition I entered last year, the Robert Bigelow competition for evidence in life after human physical death. And I started out with consciousness and the plants, the trees, the animals, the rocks,
Mm-hmm.
just
mm,
as you laid it out there, and about the galaxy spinning, at what speed it spins, at what speed we're traveling through the space itself. It's phenomenal. It's huge. And I mean, our planet starts off spinning at, I think it's 1,000 miles an hour, and then the everything around that is going faster and faster and faster until I think we're traveling. I forget the exact figures now. It's a while since I wrote it, but over 500,000 miles an hour. I mean, that's huge, covering huge distances. But within that plane as well, we go up and down, and the frequencies of Earth change.
mm.
Also, the frequencies of the sun, the frequencies of the planets, and just recently, all the planets were in line, so that's a stronger frequency. The Earth had its own frequency. I think call it the Schumann resonance. It vibrates at a certain hertz. I don't know what it is now. I'll have to look it up. But so do the
Something
planets.
like
Mm-hmm.
And the light from the sun, that's the energy, and that drives everything. And if that frequency of the sun raises, then it raises the frequency of consciousness here. And recently we've just had 3I Atlas come past, which there's a lot of speculation about it. But I asked the Council of Eight what it was, and they said it's a comet with unusual characteristics and trajectory. However, it is just a comet. But that comet has consciousness itself, which flying by in close proximity affects the planet Earth, affects the human, affects the sun. So it's all interrelated in relation to that. And once we learn to use consciousness and the frequencies of consciousness, then we can communicate, travel, heal. We can be educated. We can create and co-create using all these energies. So, as Karin said, we are currently, I think, in a transition between the third dimension and the fourth dimension. And the only difference between the dimensions are frequencies of consciousness themselves. And I was given an equation for calculating the frequencies of consciousness, which has just been published in a recent book by Ray Hernandez in volume 5, A Greater Reality. So we are now learning about consciousness, and now we're linked to everything, and not just our own planet, not just all the plants, trees, the animals, the insects. We can communicate with the extraterrestrials. We can communicate with the interdimensionals. We can communicate with our deceased family and friends because they're just at a higher level of consciousness. So, in answer to your question, that yes, we are raising our frequency, and you'll see that by the amount of people now who are being contacted by extraterrestrials. They've always been here, but we haven't seen them because of the frequencies that they resonate at. We don't have access. I do because I've had contact with them from childhood. But once you can access those frequencies, you can communicate with them, like you can communicate with the butterflies, the plants, the trees, the insects. And once you realize that, it broadens your horizon to who we are as a species and where we're actually going. And I think by sharing the information, just by talking about it, raises the frequency of our collective consciousness. And I say we're seeing that now. And so, yeah, but interesting. Karin started off with I'm going to publish that essay at some point in the future. I've got it all ready to go now. I'm just trying to finish a book off with Aurora Belcia. And once we get that finished, that essay will be in that. But with that equation, so if anybody's interested, they can have a look at it. But it's also in Ray and Andy's book as well. So.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Kevin. As you're talking, a thought come to me, and if I may play the devil's advocate for a moment and say, well, hold on, look at international relationships and the amount of aggression between some countries and the amount of threats and fear that's been raised. That seems to be contradictory to what we're talking about here. How do you understand that?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll have a go myself
I
in a
can do,
minute,
yeah. I know
but
the answer
yeah,
to that because
yeah.
they're operating at a different frequency of consciousness. And depending where you are within those frequencies, depends on how you react, plus your experiences you have through life, plus your education. But there's levels of frequencies within humanity. As Karin explained, the levels of frequencies, the plants, the trees, the animals, the rocks, they're going in a scale like this, going upwards. Well, it's the same within humanity. We're all at different levels of consciousness and how we react. If you're aggressive, anger is a lower frequency of consciousness. Love is a very high frequency of consciousness. And there's many in between. And it depends where you fall on that scale. And that explains the wars, the aggression, the famine, all the things that we don't like about humanity. I suspect that's the reason why, the different levels of consciousness.
So if we're to look at the news, well, I look at the news in England, and you have it in the States, of course. but often we see news items about people being aggressive towards each other, focusing on wars and etc. So, and yet not so much about the goodwill between people that is there, yet it's not focused on in the news environments. Um, so just check in with you. I'm kind of understanding that the goodwill, the movement towards a higher vibration, a loving vibration is there, but it's behaving almost like I'm imagining it as a kind of undercurrent where the high profile newsworthy items of regression and threats between peoples is very prominent, but there's a lot going on otherwise that's moving in a different direction. So there's stuff that going, into the anger, into the fear-based stuff, but there's other energies of a that's moving towards a more loving or yeah, a loving higher vibration. Just what do you think of that? Do you think that's a
I'll
valid
answer
point
this
or
one.
yeah, sure, please do.
Um, Maybe viewers have heard this term, and if they haven't, I'll explain it. There's something called the 100th monkey effect.
Mm,
And basically, this started from a long time ago, probably 100 years. They took some rhesus monkeys and they put them on two different islands. And they were really trying to study them away from their own environment and see, basically it was an animal study, but it eventually, they used this to try to also explain primate behavior, and humans are also primates. And what happened was that one group of monkeys were given their favorite treats, sweet potatoes and grapes, and they would just offload them and give them to them. And they started watching one group, and one monkey decided, I wonder what would happen if I washed this sweet potato and these grapes. Now, where did that idea come from for this monkey? To just decide to do that. They're on an isolated island. They're not learning it from another monkey or caregiver or zookeeper, whatever. They just decided to go do this. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this tastes much better. And in fact, they learned to barter even with the grapes, like trading. And that's not the most interesting part of that study. The most interesting part is the monkeys on a totally separate island, separated by water, and no other way for the second set of monkeys to understand or learn from this, started doing the same thing. So this is what's called the 100th monkey effect. And only recently have we begun to understand quantum physics and entanglement, or the
mhm,
field, as some people call it. Now, some of the viewers might not know that Kevin and I were given a similar download. We didn't know each other about quantum theory and entanglement. And this was something to help us try to understand what is consciousness. That's my understanding. And later, of course, we found each other and compared notes. And that was given to be a corroboration to this information. I'm not a physicist, and I know Kevin's not. So why would we be suddenly given the same way this first monkey was given this information? Where does that information come from? So back to your question, Dave, there's a field out there of
mhm.
consciousness that, when does the 100th monkey effect start? Well, we don't know, but we know that it's possible. So when you talk about a whole planetary system of consciousness, and not everybody is telling each other, and quantum entanglement means you can be separated by vast distances and still be affected by the information. And nobody tells you, well, that's because we're learning the quantum field is a different level of physics and conveying information. Think of the cloud. Not any of us probably know exactly how the cloud works to store and retrieve information. And if we had told our grandparents about it, they'd lose their minds. But we know that it's there and we know it works. So this is like a cloud technology out there that at some point enough people will be doing it. And I think we're part of this and explaining it and talking about it. And then people totally unconnected to it are going to get it. And we don't know how or why that works. Just like we don't know how that 100th monkey was like, oh, I'm supposed to wash these and barter with grapes. I don't know where that came from, but it's in my head. So my answer to that question is we still are in that transition. I don't know how long it will take, but there will still be these power struggles. We still have dark forces, service to self, negative, selfish, greedy, corrupt organizations on the earth. And that's going to continue till they die off or become part of something that more people are involved in and affected by. They may not even know where the idea came from. But as more and more, we don't know what the tipping point is, but there will be one. That's my opinion.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I suppose I ought to try and answer my own question myself. Is the vibration of Mother Earth rising? If so, is the vibration of humanity also rising? Um, yeah, I think what you've just explained, Karin, about the what do you call the field of consciousness is something that jumped out at me. Yes, yes, that this feels right. It is as though the vibration of Mother Earth is rising. I don't have hard evidence to support that, yet it does seem to be that way. As life forms on Mother Earth, it seems clear to me that the vibration of the life forms is going to have some compatibility with the uh, with the vibration of Mother Earth that's rising, and so there'll be a rising there. I think taking another perspective, I think there's a kind of ordering that's going along at the moment. People that are more interested in this or more interested in working in a more positive way or in a more, we use the word exo-conscious way, discovering more about ourselves and our abilities and our potential to be more than what we've known ourselves to be. Such people may even be looking at a video such as this. Yet others who aren't interested in this are looking at other things. We each choose our level of consciousness, what it is that appeals to us. I don't think there's anything right or wrong about it. We just go where we need to go. And in this ordering, it seems to me that there's a swell of people that are becoming more and more interested in their spiritual selves, the spirituality of the world around them, the potential of who we are. There's more and more people becoming interested in looking to explore more and to develop more. There are some that aren't, and it's yet each of us each soul has their own day, is how I see it. Some of us will just, keep growing and evolving, discovering more and more about ourselves. As we are here, we're alive now. One day we'll be dead, and as souls, we'll still be there, and we evolve more and more. And at some point, each soul will go through this phase, I think, where we explore more and more about ourselves, discover more about who we are as souls, um, as souls holding a human body that accommodates us and evolving as a consequence of that. Okay, thank you. Kevin, anything further to add to the question?
No, I think we've covered it quite extensively there.
Yeah.
So, but it is interesting how Karen and I have very similar understanding and views on it, coming from different backgrounds, but we always seem to get come to the same point of reference. So, and it happens all the
Yeah.
time. It's fine.
Yes, it's good, and it's good also to have different ways of expressing things, which sort of widens our understanding, as I understand it. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Karen. I'll bring the recording to an end now. Thank you.